Okay, hello class, welcome back. We're going to continue today with the nervous system part 3. But before we start, let's just do a little review from last time. And this review is going to be, we're going to actually use this review. Remember, there are two parts to the nervous system, two major parts. The central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system has 4 components, but we'll only be concerned with one of those components, the visceral motor component of the peripheral nervous system. And that has a special name. What's the special name of that part? The autonomic nervous system. Okay. Now the autonomic nervous system, let's see here, has 2 components. The sympathetic component, which is in control when you're under stressful situation. Whenever your body is introduced to a stressful situation, sympathetic responses are going to occur, and this is due to your sympathetic nervous system. For the example that we used was you're walking home one dark night, and then a large vicious dog challenges you. Your body has to prepare to deal with that dog. And what it does is that the sympathetic nervous system prepares your body to either fight that dog or to run away from that dog. And so what we're going to be talking about now is just those sympathetic responses. Those are all sympathetic responses. The antithesis of that, or the opposite of your sympathetic responses, are going to be your parasympathetic responses, which your body is which is in control of your body. Like now you're relaxing. There's not a lot of stress, unless I'm causing you a great deal of stress. There's not a lot of stress in your life, and so you should be pretty comfortable now. And so right now your body is under parasympathetic control. And what we're going to learn today is how do these sympathetic responses occur. We're not going to really talk about the parasympathetic because it's just the opposite of the sympathetic. So let's look at some of those responses we talked about last time. Sympathetic responses. So if a dog is chasing you, several things will happen. First, your hair is going to stand up on your head. Hair stands up. What was the rationale for that? To make you appear larger, exactly. Okay. The second response is that this pilorector muscle here. Let's see here. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can do this. No. Yeah, this pilorector muscle is going to pull on your hair follicle. So under normal circumstances, your hair follicle is slanted. It's a slanted tube in your body, or in your scalp, or wherever in your skin. And there is this muscle attached to your hair follicle. And so when you're posed with a stressful situation, that pilorector muscle is going to contract and stand your hair up to make you appear larger. We'll talk today about why that happens. How does that happen? But we're going to just go over all 5 of them first. The next response is that your iris is going to dilate and make your pupil get larger. What's the rationale? Why do you need a larger pupil under this situation? To let more light in, not see farther, because having a larger pupil does not allow you to see farther. Exactly. That's when the lens changes. Exactly. And so we'll talk about how this occurs. The next one is going to be the thinning of the lens. Like now you're relaxed, your lens is pretty thick and globular, but if you're under a stressful situation, your lens is going to get very thin. What's the rationale? Why? So you can see farther away. Very good, very good. And we'll talk about exactly how that happens in just a second. Vascular constriction and relaxation. When you're right now, you're under parasympathetic control. So right now you have lots of blood going to your stomach, lots of blood going to your kidneys, lots of blood and nutrients going to your skin, and not a lot going to your muscles. But under sympathetic control, you're going to put less blood to your stomach, less to your kidneys, less to your skin, and more to your skeletal muscles. Now, the rationale. Why less blood under stressful conditions? Why would you need less blood going to your stomach and your kidneys? Why? What's the rationale? Not vomit. You just don't want to digest the food. At that time, you don't want to digest the food, and you don't want to urinate. Exactly. Why do you want less blood going to your skin? Exactly. If the dog bites you, you won't bleed to death. And why do you want more blood going to your skeletal muscles? Exactly. So it can move fast, or it can be stronger. Very good. Very good. And the last one we looked at is going to be bronchiolar expansion. We didn't really talk about this one a lot because it just makes sense. Why do you want your bronchioles to expand? To let more air in. Very good. Now, there was one more that we did not talk about. And let's just get that very last one. There are lots of them. I don't know if I should even talk about this one yet. But this one is an important one, so I really have to talk about it now. So let's talk about the very last, or let's talk about another. Let's see here. I've already drawn this, so maybe I shouldn't even draw it again. Okay. Okay. Maybe you should know what this is now. What is that? That's the heart, exactly. These are going to be your atria, and then your ventricles are really big. Okay, and in your heart, you're going to have cardiac muscle. And so you're going to have cardiac muscle here in your heart. We'll just put this here for the cardiac muscle here. And so this is going to be the muscle here, the cardiac muscle. What's the function of your heart? What does your heart do? Pumps blood. Now, the magic question is this. When you're under a stressful situation, do you want to pump more blood? Do you want to pump more blood, or do you want to pump less blood? More blood. That is the right answer. Why? Why do you want to pump more blood? To get more what to your muscles? To get more oxygen to your muscles. Exactly. And so here, you're going to have cardiac or cardio stimulation. That'll be number 6. And hopefully all of these will make sense now. And so there are other sympathetic responses, but we're just going to focus on these right now. How do these responses take place? Okay. I'm going to put this up here with this chapter. Okay. Now I'm going to explain a concept to you. I don't know if I should use a picture. Okay. There are 2 ways that your body can produce that your body could possibly produce a sympathetic response. Okay. And I'm going to do it this way here. I haven't thought this through completely, but I think it'll make sense to you. Let's just put 2 parts of the body here. I'm just going to put here, I'm just going to put this for the heart. And so you want to activate your heart, and you want blood and nutrients going to your, let's see here, what was that? The stomach. Or we do the kidney. No, let's do the stomach. Okay, if you would, don't write right now. Just listen. Just listen to what I'm saying to see if this makes sense to you, because this really needs to make sense. Now, your body could produce a sympathetic response in 2 ways. Okay, it could do this. It could produce one way to do it is to produce here hormone. We'll just put here hormone 1. Whenever a dog, whenever you're posed with a stressful situation, the body could say to itself, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to produce 2 hormones. Hormone 1, I know what, instead of putting hormone 1, I'm going to put hormone S for stimulating hormone. It can produce a stimulating hormone, and it can produce an inhibitory hormone. And so that stimulatory hormone would go to the heart to stimulate the heart. And that inhibitory hormone would go to the stomach to inhibit the action of the stomach. Does that make sense? Makes sense, everybody? Okay, very good. That's one way that sympathetic stimulation could take place. Now, there's also another way that we could get sympathetic stimulation. So let's do it this way. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just, I'm going to get rid of this. Now we could also do things this way. Okay, we could do it this way. We could have, let's just get another color so this will make sense. Or we could have a hormone X here and a hormone, the same hormone X and hormone X. And on the organ itself, we could have a receptor that receives the hormone, and we could say that this hormone, this receptor here, was an inhibitory receptor, or nope, not inhibitory. This receptor could be a stimulatory, we'll put RS for a stimulatory receptor, so that when that one hormone binds to that receptor, it'll stimulate the heart, and on the stomach, you'll have a different receptor, and it would inhibit. It's the same hormone in both cases, but the hormone now has two different actions. Only one of these ways works, but I just want to make sure, do you understand the rationale of our two possibilities? Okay, the first possibility, the body only works one of these ways. The first possibility is that we could have two different hormones. A stimulatory hormone that's produced in the body when there's a sympathetic response, and the body produces an inhibitory hormone. The body produces both of these hormones. These hormones both go. Okay, we'll have a receptor here and a receptor here. Of course, the receptors have to be different because the hormones are different. And so the stimulatory hormone goes to the heart, stimulates the heart. The inhibitory hormone goes to the stomach, inhibits the stomach. Okay. Can you all see that sign? Do you all see that? Did it say low battery? Y'all saw that? It's too many things to remember, I tell you. But does it, if I don't hurry, it's going to turn it, the whole computer will just turn off. Oh yes, it's a long one, thank goodness. Okay, very good, we made it. Okay, so you could have two hormones. The sympathetic nervous system could produce two hormones, a stimulatory hormone and an inhibitory hormone that does different things throughout the body. Or you could have the sympathetic nervous system could produce one hormone, and that hormone has different actions on different organs based on the receptors that are there. Okay, does everybody understand our two possible situations? Okay. Now, this question here that I'm going to ask you is more of a rhetorical question. Because I want just to see how you think. Well, it's an analytical question I'm asking you. Which way do you think the body works? Do you think the body produces one hormone that has different actions on different organs? Or do you think the body produces several hormones that only produce their effects on their particular organ? Which one do you think? Which one do you think would make the most sense? Only one way works in the body. Okay, one hormone with different receptors. Okay. Who disagrees with that? Okay, Okay. So we have one person that disagrees with that. Okay, two people that disagree with that. Three people. Those three people are right. No, those three people are wrong. It's one hormone. It's one hormone. There is one hormone that the body produces for a sympathetic response. There's one hormone. Or it could produce several hormones, but those hormones They do the same thing. So let's see how I'm going to draw this. Let's see here. Let's do this. I need you to understand the whyness first. Okay. So let's do this. Let's draw ourselves a nice little organ here. Okay. Anybody have any idea what that might be? Brain, spinal cord. Very good. Let's just put an organ here. Heart. And you need to see the big picture first. Okay, what's going to happen? I'm going to let. So coming from the spinal cord in the brain, there's going to be. So that's going to be a sympathetic nerve. Well, I shouldn't put an arrow at the end because that's confusing. I'm going to put here. Okay, that's going to be a sympathetic nerve there. It's too close because I need a gap there to do something. There's a sympathetic nerve, and here there's a sympathetic nerve. Those sympathetic nerves produce the hormone norepinephrine, N-E. Norepinephrine, N-E. What norepinephrine is going to do when it gets to the heart, it's going to activate the heart. That makes it really easy for your body. If there's a sympathetic response, if norepinephrine is produced, your body is just activated for stressful situations. So norepinephrine is going to be produced. It's going to activate the heart, and it's going to deactivate or inhibit any gastrointestinal functions. Okay, I'm going to do, again, it's one more concept I need you to understand. Evolutionarily speaking, if you believe in evolution. Okay. Evolutionarily speaking, I'm going to draw here. I'm going to draw here this organ here. Anybody have any idea what that is? What is that organ? Okay, think about it like this. A long time ago, there was the kidney. And on top of the kidney was this huge ganglion. And what happened, this ganglion would produce, hold on, let me see something. I want to make sure I can get rid of that if I don't need it. Okay. And this ganglion on top of the kidney here had lots of nerves that went lots and lots of places in the body. It produced epinephrine, E-P-I, epinephrine. So it produced lots and lots of epinephrine. And so basically almost every part of the body responded to this epinephrine. Just tons of epinephrine was produced in the body. Every time you needed a sympathetic response, you had lots and lots of epinephrine released from these sympathetic nerves. But then the body came up with an idea. The body said, it's pointless to have all of these nerves to produce all of this epinephrine. So what I'm going to do, what this ganglion said to itself, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just get rid of all of these nerves. And so that's what it did. It got rid of all of these nerves here. So let's get rid of all of these nerves. Okay. And then it said to itself, now what I'm going to do, right here, that's all I want. There's a very important concept here. Okay, right on top of the kidney here. It decided then what it would do is produce the epinephrine and just secrete it right into circulation. So all of those ganglia, all of those nerve bodies that were on top of the kidney, they decided to release all of this epinephrine right into circulation. And so that structure now that's right on top of the kidney, what's the name of that structure on top of the kidney? The adrenal gland. And that's why we call epinephrine adrenaline. Make sense? So adrenaline and norepinephrine are similar. Epinephrine is a little stronger, but epinephrine, they are both sympathetic hormones. They're both sympathetic neurotransmitters. They activate your body. So the second one is going to be epinephrine. So epinephrine is a true hormone because it's released into circulation, whereas norepinephrine is not really a true hormone. It's just it's a neurotransmitter because it's released by nerve endings. So whenever your body produces epinephrine or norepinephrine, it's going to produce a sympathetic response. Make sense? Now let's think about drugs. Let's think about this for a second. Let's see if this makes sense to you. Let's say someone was going to, let's start at the top. Well, let's not do that because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's say that someone was going to the eye doctor. And the eye doctor needed to dilate that person's eye. The doctor could do that in two ways. He could dilate that person's eye in two ways. He could either, while the person is lying down, waiting for the doctor could bring in a big vicious dog. Would the person's eyes dilate? Yes, they would. But there's an easier way to do that. You don't have to use a dog. Or the doctor could just inject the person with epinephrine. Then their eyes would dilate. Make sense? So there are lots of drugs. What pharmacologists have done, or pharmaceutical companies, they've looked at the structure of epinephrine. They've made lots of drugs that are similar to it, and those different drugs work in different places in the body. And that's one of the main ways we make a lot of our drugs, just by looking at the endogenous chemicals that are found in the body. Make sense? Okay. Now let's say you go to the not just an eye doctor, a regular doctor, or an MD, and the person is having an asthma attack. Their bronchioles. Oh, what happens in an asthma attack? What's the problem? Your bronchioles are constricted. Now, what is one thing, which is but not advisable, that the doctor could do to expand that patient's bronchioles? What could he do? He could bring in a dog. And the dog would scare the person, and the person's bronchioles would expand. Make sense? What's a better method? What was that? Exactly, giving them an EpiPen. Exactly. So someone's having an asthma attack, just give them epinephrine, and then their bronchioles will relax. Make sense? Let's say that there is a heart transplant patient. They've just had a heart transplant, and then their heart is beating, but it's not really beating. It's not beating strong enough, for them to get all of the needed nutrients and oxygen in their body. Okay. What's one thing that we can do? Not advisable, but what's something that we can do to support that person's heart, to help that person's heart to beat faster? Exactly. You could bring a dog into the room, but that's not really a good thing to do. What's a better way to help that person? Epinephrine. Exactly. Does the rationale make sense? Very good, very good. So now what I'm going to explain to you all, is it hot in here to anyone? Okay. It's comfortable. Make it a little cooler. Who knows how to do it? Who did it before? Yes. Yeah, I guess I could help. Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at what are all of these receptors I talked about, there are different receptors. It's the same neurotransmitter, either epinephrine or norepinephrine. They do the same things, basically, and we'll learn what those differences are later. But what the different things are going to be the receptors. So now, let us talk about the receptors. Everything making sense so far? Okay, very good, very good. Let's see. What is... Now, our parent compound is always going to be epinephrine. So I'm going to write this down here. That's our parent compound. That's our epinephrine. Hope I'm spelling it right. It doesn't matter. You get epinephrine. Now, what is another name for epinephrine? Adrenaline. Very good. Adrenaline is another name for epinephrine. So because adrenaline or epinephrine can bind to these receptors, we call these receptors adrenergic receptors. And there are different types of adrenergic receptors. There are different types of adrenergic receptors. And by the time this lecture is over, you're going to be able to figure out, well, which receptors go with which body parts. And it's going to make sense. It's going to make a whole lot of sense. Okay? There are 4 types of adrenergic receptors I'll need you to know. 4 types. Okay? There's an alpha 1 adrenergic receptor. And there's a beta 1 adrenergic receptor. Those are on one side. On the other side, we're going to have, what do you think this one's going to be? Alpha 2 adrenergic receptor. Very good. And what do you think the last one is going to be? Beta 2 adrenergic receptors. Very good. Okay. Now, I put them like this because they can be grouped together. They can be grouped. These first 2 on the right, on the left here, these are going to be stimulatory receptors. They're found on the organs that need to be stimulated. And so for your alpha 2 and your beta 2 adrenergic receptors, they're going to be found on the organs that need to be inhibited. So alpha 1, your 1s are going to be stimulatory receptors. Your 2s are going to be inhibitory receptors. Make sense? Now, there's one more rule you need to remember. One rule you need to remember. Now, how do you know if it's alpha 1 or beta 1? This is the rule. I don't want to write it. If the organ needs to be stimulated, it's going to always be alpha 1, except for, it's going to always be alpha 1 except for the heart. Let's see, I need to write this smaller. It's going to be always alpha 1 for stimulatory except for the heart. The heart is not alpha 1. The juxtaglomerular apparatus on the kidneys is not alpha 1. And your fat cells. So all of your stimulatory receptors are going to be alpha 1 except for the heart, the juxtaglomerular apparatus, and the fat cells. We're going to look at some examples of these in just a second.
What did you say the JGA is?
This is the part of the kidneys that receives your blood. Let me spell it out. The juxtaglomerular apparatus. So all of the adrenergic receptors on stimulatory organs are going to be alpha 1, except for the heart, the juxtaglomerular apparatus, and your fat cells. I wish we need to do one example of this. Is not going to make sense as you think about it. On all of your inhibitory tissues, everything is going to be beta 2 is going to be the default, except for the presynaptic nerve endings. Except for presynaptic nerve endings. Well, we'll do platelets. It's not important. We're not going to really talk about it yet. Platelets and some cells in the pancreas. So the 3 Ps. The insulin-producing cells of the pancreas. So everything is going to be beta 2. So here, beta 2 is going to be the default, except for these 3. And for over here, alpha 1 is going to be the default, except for these 3. And I want to do one example before we leave, so you'll have a sense of what I'm talking about. So now let's do this. Let's go back. Let's go back to our let's do one example. Okay, here we go. Our pilorector muscle is going to have, on the pilorector muscle, we're going to have an adrenergic receptor. We're going to have an adrenergic receptor on your pilorector muscle. Okay. Now, your pilorector muscle. Do you want your when you're posed with a stressful situation, do you want the pilorector muscle to contract, or do you want it to relax? You want it to contract. Very good. You want it to contract. Now, second question. Do we need if we want it to contract, then, do we need a stimulatory receptor on it, or do we need an inhibitory receptor? Stimulatory. It's got to be stimulatory. That means if it's stimulatory, it has to be alpha 1 or it has to be beta 1, because those are our two stimulatories, right? So the $1 million question now is, which adrenergic receptor is found on the pilorector muscle? Alpha 1. Make sense? And so when we come back on Wednesday, we're going to go through all of these, and you're going to be able to tell me which receptor is found everywhere in the body. And then we're going to start looking at the signal transduction. Now, questions. Exactly. The question was, when would it be beta 1? And those are the 3 exceptions: the heart, the JGA, and the adipocytes.
But if we're talking about inhibitors, it's normally beta 2, and if it's not beta 2, if it's the
presynaptic nerve endings.
platelets for the pancreas, it's alpha
Exactly. Exactly. And this gets a lot of people in biochemistry in medical school because they just never understand that concept. But hopefully you all will. Any more questions? Okay, we're going to stop there and look at our quiz here. Okay, where's the stop button?